Hi, it's the Louisiana Conservatarian again. I'm trying to be in a good mood. With everything that's going on, I've been doing some really deep thinking about the issues surrounding all these statues and things that are being removed. And I think I have a solution. I think I have a solution. Look, don't get me started, okay? I feel really, really bad. I feel really bad about everybody's so hurt. And their feelings of being hurt by all these statues that are up. So, why stop at Robert E. Lee? Yeah, that's right. I want to create a world where nobody's crying, nobody's upset. I figured that might be the answer to this. So why stop there? For instance, you know what? We should tear down the pyramids. We should tear down the Taj Mahal. Because let's face it, both of those were built by slaves. That should be deeply offensive to just about anybody since they were built by slaves. So let's just level those. We don't need to be reminded of slave labor like that. What about Martin Luther King? Ooh, I better not mention him, but guess what? Martin Luther King thought that homosexuality was a sin. He didn't like gays at all. I think gays would be horribly offended by Martin Luther King. We should eliminate anything with Martin Luther King on it, all the streets and the highways, the buildings, the statues. Let's make sure we protect the gays by making sure there's no references to Martin Luther King. That would be insensitive. Why stop there? What about FDR? Oh, the greatest president in the history of the world. Well, guess what? I think Japanese Americans don't like him at all because he put them in internment camps in 1942. Yeah, that's right. He jailed basically a bunch of Japanese Americans in response to Pearl Harbor. So I think our Japanese American citizens were probably deeply offended by anything having to do with FDR. So, that should be totally eliminated. Let's be sensitive. Or why stop there? Why stop there? Let's go to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Now, personally, I think they're some of the greatest men ever known to mankind. They did have this little problem, though, of being slave owners. Even though they were both on record as being against slavery, you have to take it in the context of the times to know why they had slaves. And they freed them once they were died. But that's not the point. It's offensive, just like Robert E. Lee is. Oh, yeah, and Robert E. Lee, he was like the most decorated general in the United States. Abraham Lincoln actually wanted him to be on the Union side to fight. Robert E. Lee didn't own any slaves, in fact, didn't even believe in slaves, but his heart was in Virginia, so that's why he chose that side. We don't learn that stuff because it's so offensive that he fought on that side. So the fact that he wasn't a slave owner, we don't care. The fact that he didn't agree with slavery, that's not the point. We got to get rid of him. And we got to get rid of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. We just got to wipe them off. It's too offensive. How about Robert Byrd? There's a recent example. Robert Byrd, the great senator from West Virginia, served up until, I guess, about 10 years or so ago. A former Grand Poobah, or whatever you want to call it, of the KKK. That's right. The KKK. A Democrat from West Virginia. We should eliminate all the buildings and all the references to him, because that's going to be offensive. In fact, we probably should just eliminate the entire Democratic Party. That's right. The Democratic Party, the party that didn't vote for the Civil Rights Act of 57, of 64, and of 65. Do you know your history? Look it up. The Democrats have always been about suppressing African Americans and all minorities. For them, it's about control. So just about every minority should be offended by the Democratic Party. So let's just eliminate everything about them, and then everybody will be happy. Probably not. How about Bill Clinton? He sexually harassed all kinds of women. That's really well known. Women should be deeply offended by anything having to do with Bill Clinton, so we probably should just eliminate that from history as well. Any libraries, any streets, any references in history books, let's just eliminate it all up. I think probably the only statue that should remain, or any reference that should remain, probably is George Orwell. Why? Because he predicted all this. He got the year wrong. He wrote a book called 1984. But in essence, he predicted all this kind of stuff would happen. That we would try to eliminate from our history books the things we didn't like. Folks, this is sad and very dangerous times. Someone like myself isn't saying that we should eliminate any of those things that I mentioned or anything else from our public squares, public lands, or public museums. I'm not suggesting that. Even if there are people that did horrible things, they were part of our history. We need to be reminded of it. We need to remember it. We need to teach it to our children. These people that are trying to take down statues, it's just the beginning, and it's a very slippery slope. Well, that was enough to get me started. If you want to hear more, I have a radio program called the Louisiana Conservatarian. Please check me out. And I hope you know that I was just joking with all this. Anyway, my time's up. I thank you for yours.